In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
Welcome to the Veteran Show, hosted by Levi Miller and also my co-host Thomas Lucken. Well, myself, I'm a Korean veteran who served August the 27th, 1969 to September the 27th, 1970 on the DMZ. I was in Company B, 1st and 38th Infantry in the 2nd Division.
And I'm Tom Lucken. I served, I served multiple times in Korea. My first tour over there was 83, 84 with Alpha 47 Cab. My second tour, I jumped around quite a bit, plus a unit redesignated, but 87, 88, I was with Bravo Troop 47 Cab, last of the old air cab. Then 88 to 89, I was with HHT, attached out to the new air cab when we reorganized. And then 89 to 90, I was back with Bravo Troop. By then it was a ground troop, 517 cab. Then I came back after Desert Storm. I went back to Korea as a contractor until 2000.
So you all can see Thomas Lucken. He spent a lot of time in Korea. Thomas, did you enjoy the experience while you was in Korea?
Yes, I did. I think when I came back in 2000, my mother picked us up from the airport. And I remember that year after I got back, we got chatted one day. She was running around while I was trying to get everything, my life story, my family's life straightened out and getting going here in the States. And she looked at me and said, "Boy, you see more." I was 37 then, and she goes, "You probably see more in your 37 years than most people will ever see in a lifetime."
That's true.
And I never thought that way, but it's a little different when you live the experience than when you talk to somebody else. When I talk to other people, I think I did is nothing compared to what the others had. Some others have. So, my son going to Afghanistan, that was a whole different ball game. And probably for me as a father, it was a whole different. It was poor kid spent 10 years in Korea himself growing up.
Right. But Thomas being in Korea, it wasn't no joke though. But we served our time there, and we served it well.
Yeah, and during your time there, from the whole time it was kind of how do you want to say covered over. But the worst times was probably from in Korea's what they sometimes called the DMZ wars.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most active times was 66 to 69. And Levi, you got there at the tail end.
Yeah, right at the tail.
And most of you could anticipate, or not anticipate, but you could probably, without thinking too hard about it, I'm lost for words, not new. When North Korea, when things started intensifying up in the DMZ in '66, we were we're a year in after putting conventional forces in Vietnam.
Right.
So it's and to make a long story short, the communists, with the help of North Korea, many of us truly believed back then they were trying to start a second front and making it harder on the U.S. and its allies.
Right, that's true.
They were trying to entice us. If you think about it, a lot of times the actions what the North Koreans did, they were trying to entice us to attack them. Then we would look like the bad guys, but they were trying to entice us into starting a second front. And so that's always been my belief. I know Doug Voss, who I've mentioned you before, who was there 68, 69. He was with 2ID. I forget what unit. He was with a couple units.
I think he went from 68 to 69. I know I Facebooked him today, too.
Okay. So, he was there, like I said before you. But there's a few other guys who were there. Like, I'm jumping feet a little bit, but if you ever get a chance, we need to get, if you could talk to Gilbert Jackson. He was there when him and Dennis Diggs were both there in Korea when they changed from first cab to second ID, by the way, in 65.
Okay.
So, because actually
Right.
They redesignated the 2ID. And so, of course, I had the luxury of being invited to go back last year on a trip that was sponsored by the city of Weijambu.
That's why I'm jealous of you now, Thomas. Cause, that's why I'm jealous of you now, because you went back. I haven't got a chance to go back yet.
Yeah, I think I went back last year, and I tell you what, there's guys that have, some of the guys haven't been there since they did their tour, let's say, the late 60s, and it's like I told one of the guys, I think I was more shocked at the changes, because really I've seen Korea grow from 83 to 2000.
Right.
In that 17-year period, but from 2000 to 2000, last year, 2015, it was over 15 years since I've been back, and I was really surprised at the changes in the last, there were more changes I saw in the last 15 years than the 17 years I did. Korea was growing, the high-rise apartments were just starting to come in a lot of areas, but still, Dongchon itself, TDC, as many of us know, as GIs knew, that was pretty much the same town from 83 to 2000. Especially the village part the GIs ran. The cost of things went up, and I'll leave it on things, but a lot of, areas didn't change. So now the one thing I didn't get to do on the trip was see more of the rural areas, like where Sanjuri, Yanjigo, and some of the, parts where we had a lot of small camps.
Who
had us booked in.
Yeah, that Yanjigo, I was around that Yanjigo when we come down south for 3 months before we go back up north. And we go through Yanjigo, Turkey Palm, and RC1. If you remember, the RC1 was closest to Yanjigo.
Yeah, because RC1 was over there. In fact, RC1 was still active through the 80s. Now back to the DMC, and we might be jumping around, but that's fine. Just trying to give people history.
There you go.
As you know, we have when the armistice was signed, July 27, 1953. Officially, that ended the major fighting, as I call it.
Okay.
As you and I both know, the fighting never totally stopped.
That's right.
Major fighting did. But, we had conflicts on end, even well into the late 80s up to early 91. But October 3rd, 1991 is when we officially turned our last sector on the DMZ over to the South Korean Army, or the ROC, as many of us still call it. For the listeners, they may not know what ROC means. It's ROK for Republic of Korea.
Right.
So if you hear me and Levi say ROC, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. We talking about we talking about ROC.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, I'm married to one.
There's nothing wrong with that. But
I've been married more. I'll leave it alone. But yeah, and but from that 53 to 91 time period, as we all, anybody who's serving the DMZ know it was not totally quiet.
Right.
Even in the 80s, we've had incidents that happen. I've seen in my unit. There's incidents that happened. I was over there, never even knew it happened. Especially when we still at the DMZ. Sometimes I'm shocked to learn. It's like, wow, I never even heard of that. I was there. And I was there, close to the second ID. I was with the cab, and it's like, really? And so, like I was telling you the other night, it was 1973 when Vietnam came, the ground war in Vietnam for us pretty much came to a halt.
Yeah, it did.
We pretty much had all our majority of our troops out. I know I've been told, I don't want to mention the individual's name right now, but the gentleman was an officer a few times in division. He told me that by 1970, after the Vietnam, the Army did not require, reports on incidents that happened after that.
Oh yeah, that's what you were telling me.
How that, that was played out, I couldn't tell you, but I'd have to agree to it because, many of us seen stuff up there, but you can't, there seems to be no records of it, or good luck finding the records on it.
Right. Cause Thomas, I know a lot of stuff we had up there too. Sometimes it was reported, and sometimes it wasn't. And cause I know back in the States, back then when especially when they had the Vietnam War going on, United States didn't want everybody to know, we was in another conflict also too. And a lot of things we did it kept kind of quiet.
Yeah, and it made it with Vietnam. It made it easy to cover up on Korea. And
Yes.
I hate to put it this way, but it's factual. When you're talking, you lose 100 lives. Well, that didn't happen every day in Vietnam. But for example, let's say, okay, the United States Army lost 80 lives today in Vietnam. They're not going to worry about the 2, 3, 4 lives that were lost in Korea, because that's the lives, the soldiers, our fellow soldiers we lost in Vietnam, overshadows what we lost in Korea.
That's true.
Yeah. And, and I hate saying it that way because, it's always like me and like you and many others believe one soldier loss is a sad thing, and it's a hard thing. So, and, somebody, because most cases our troops, it's not like, and again, I don't mean to sound mean to, like, let's say, the police or fire department, but it's not where a cop get killed or a fireman get killed on duty here in the States. When you get a 19-year-old soldier who's overseas, he's not dying in his home country. He's dying in a land that's 6, 8, 10,000 miles away.
And that's true.
Sometimes wonder what the hell they're fighting for, but they do it as we did, because that's what we were told to do.
Right.
We may not, that's what people sometimes understand about soldiers. We don't always agree with the decisions, but damn it, we're soldiers. We do what we're ordered to do.
Right.
Within reason. So, and I, that's something that's always been hard. You get these people say, well, why'd you do this? Well, because I was ordered to do it.
Right.
That's a question.
Hey, and Thomas, the little time I spent in Nam, about a month in Nam, but to me, Korea was most scary. And the reason I said that, why I called, we was on the DMZ up in Korea, or on the GPs. Most time, look foxhole by yourself at night. 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and as well. Everybody else that been in Korea, it was a big shortage. It was a big shortage in Korea then. It was understaffed. Like in Nam, we pretty close together. You may have 2 or 3 people, in the hole with you. But Korea, man, you're out there alone at night. You start hearing the tin cans rattle on the fence. Where, Thomas, they'll slip up, man, and rattle the cans sometime. And, sometimes they'll turn the Claymore mask around. When we go out and inspect in the morning up to GPs, that's been turned around, or the wires been cut.
Yeah, well, and that still happened in our time. I've never had to actually do guard posts, but over the years, back then and still now, I've talked to double guys and even in the 80s, they would find claymores turned around.
Oh yeah.
They would have to go out every morning. They would go out once they got sunrise, basically, and check the claymores, because they have North Koreans to slide in there. And, but yeah, it's, explain to people, and again, you get a lot of civilians that don't, and look at you funny, it's like, you mean all that happened, and they act like they don't believe you? It's like,
yeah, I know.
Anybody that served up there was normal, because they're thinking, they don't think of Korea, they think that, okay, the Korean War ended back, 1953.
Right.
And that's why I said an armistice was signed to stop the major fighting.
That's true.
We still patrol, and to this day, the rocks to do. Hell, wasn't, what was about 8 months ago when 2 young rock soldiers stepped on a mine. One lost both his legs, the other one lost one leg.
Yeah, I read that too.
Yeah.
And in Korea, especially on the Z, we were just like a road bump. Because, once North Korea take over, if we didn't get across that Freedom Bridge in time, because they were going to blow that one up, and we've just been out there.
And that thing was still ready and checked and wired with explosives up till, and I'm sure the rocks did, it up till when they built the Unification Bridge in the 90s that replaced Freedom Bridge.
Okay, so you tell me now they replace Freedom Bridge now?
Yeah, it's, I know for sure in 98 it was Unification Bridge just opened in 97, 98.
Okay.
And my first time across it was 98 while I was working as a contractor over there. Actually, that year I was going up there for repatriation ceremonies. I attended several ceremonies up there, repatriation of Korean War remains.
Okay.
That's something a little different to see. Not a whole lot of people have gotten to see those, you know, and I got to attend several in 98 and 99.
Right.
And, you know, that's another story, you know. I mean, you know, 13 years, you get a lot of stories out of there. You know, as we get older, you get a lot of stories in general, just about life. And, the Unification Bridge, one time we went up to 98, I said, we started going across. I'm like, where the heck are we? And somebody goes, oh, this is the new bridge that replaced Freedom. I said, wow.
Wow.
So, you know, it's a big six-lane bridge. I mean, I just went across again this year.
Oh, you kidding?
We didn't get the chance to see Freedom. Last time I saw it was in 2000. I took my kids, me and my wife, when we were getting ready to come back to the States in 2000, I took my kids up, and you know, for me, it was just, it was I figured it was the last time I ever see it in my life.
Okay.
You know, and it's always hard to explain, you know, it's one of those, I at least had to see Freedom Bridge, because we all knew what it meant going across Freedom Bridge, and it was, you know, it was an emotional thing for me to go up. I wanted to show my kids.
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I got some pictures from that.
And Thomas, as I can remember, I hope I remember that part. Freedom Bridge, that time, it wasn't just like one lane, you know, one group go, then the next group go. You know what I mean? You can only travel one way at one time. You know, it wasn't big enough for two cars.
Mm-hmm. It was a metal frame with wooden planks.
Yeah, like railroad tracks. Right.
I know the first time I went across in 83, I was driving a 5-ton going up, taking my platoon up to a range.
Okay.
And man, the first time I started across that thing, I kept a look, I forget, it was either one of the squad leaders or a platoon sergeant was in the truck with me.
Right.
In the 5-ton. But I just remember going across the lane and looking, I said, you know, my first time was going up to the DMZ to start with, but that bridge, it's like I could hear the planks, you know, bouncing around a little bit, and I just kept looking over. Man, we're going to fall through the wood. We're going to fall through the wood. I'm not the greatest with heights, so that's all I kept saying. I kept waiting for us to fall through the planks, but, you know, if you look hard enough, even there was always holes in the bridge left over from the Korean War.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There were still bullet holes in there, and but I tell you what, 83, my first time out there was just a rude awakening going to the range. You know, and you know, and I've forgotten a lot of, you know, I come and go. I did several tours up in the DMZ, several missions, but
right.
You know, the first time I went up there though, it's something I've never forgotten. I've forgotten a lot afterwards, you know, over the years. But that first time, you know, it was a sensation. Probably the first time when you meet your drill sergeant, you don't forget that.
No, you never forget that drill sergeant. I never will forget. Hey, Thomas, like I was telling you.
When I went across there, because I remember one point we were going up, I forget the name of the range, but we were going up to do the Fire M60s, the so-called, you know, machine gun range.
Right.
And, I forget the name of it, but I remember driving through the hills in one area, and I'm looking on the left side and the right side of the road, dirt road, heading towards the range, and I look again at my TC. And God forbid, I can't remember who it was, but oh well. And I look at him, and I see the mines. I said, if we go off the road here, we're screwed.
That's right. It's over.
Keep us on the road. I said, no. I said, I know that.
Yeah.
I just got to think, because you see the minefield signs up there. And that's when reality set in a long time ago for me, the first time I went. And that was just going to a range.
Right. And because, you know, Bill Clinton said one time Korea was one of the scariest places in the world up on that DMC.
It is. And back to what you were saying about Vietnam, I've talked to other guys who've been in Korea and Vietnam, and they said the same thing. They found Korea to be actually more scary at times.
It was.
Vietnam, you expect a contact with the enemy.
Right.
Korea, you're not supposed to suspect it, but you didn't know if it's going to happen. It just all of a sudden, because it wasn't like we weren't aggressive over there as aggressive as the North Korea. Everywhere else, like in Vietnam or Desert Storm, we ran patrols. We were going out, depending what type of patrols you run out, recon patrol to pick up prisoners to bring back for intel, etc.
That's true.
You weren't doing that. In Korea, when we ran patrols, you did day recons, but you're making sure they're not sneaking into our side of the fence. And so then you go out and do the ambushes. And so it got scarier. I have to believe, even from my little bit of experience at Desert Storm, it got scarier. Korea was scarier because we're not supposed to suspect contact, but you didn't know what to suspect.
That's right. That's true.
And more than one time, once I'd have, even again in the 80s, I've heard we were sniped at. I know that. I think sometimes they just did it just to screw with us.
Right.
You can hear rounds going through the brush, and being an old country boy like I am, I picked up on it. Half the guys, young guys you got, but a lot of them, didn't. But I did. You hear some go through, and it's like I knew what it was. It wasn't a loud sound, but it was fired through the brush.
Yeah, that's right.
But the minefields are a dime a dozen up there. And you and I talked about it. You had what we call the floating minefields.
Right.
The terrain and the monsoon weathers. We had in the summer and sometimes early fall. The minefields would adjust because the ground would just move. Even back in November, and I might have told you this when we talked privately, but I was back in November last year, 2015, I had to laugh because when the naval commander up there was briefing us, he mentioned we were on a ride, and I forget where to, but we were up there in the DMZ, and he mentioned about floating minefields, and I looked at him, I said, stop right there. He goes, why is that? I said, not too many other people ever used that term like you did or I didn't have.
Right.
Here. And so, and a couple other people I had to explain floating minefields. A buddy of mine was an engineer. He knew exactly what I was talking about because they had to go up there and do the minefield, And so, and that's what people don't realize. There's something else I just mentioned. That's how real the mission was. The engineers had to go up there and, beef up our bunkers, our trench lines.
They did.
Redo the minefields. I mean, okay, we're talking real mines. We're not talking training aids at Fort Rowley or Fort Myers. We're talking the real McCoy. So the engineers are going out doing a dangerous mission.
Oh, yes. I just feel for them because the stuff they doing was, it was very dangerous.
Oh, yeah. And so, when you're out to do those mines, there's no telling what happened. You could have had the North Korean, depending what type of mines you got laid out. They already turned the claymores, but depending what type of mines you got out there.
Right.
Who knows if they didn't booby trap one to, screw us over. So the engineers, there was a lot going on, and I think for a lot of years, we all just accepted it, and I've never known a lot of people to really start questioning. Facebook or social media in general, I think what all of us has brought us, many of us together, Levi.
That's true.
We start talking about experiences because, all of us are back in the world now, as we call it. And so without social media, I know a couple guys in my VFW serve in Korea, but, and vice versa, and so on, but you didn't meet the people like we did because the DMZ vets is a very small group.
Yeah, it was very small.
It's a very small group. I mean, it's like I told somebody a few years back, if you take all the, at one point 20,000 soldiers he had in the 2nd Infantry Division, it may be 3,000 a year were affected by the DMZ, 3,000 to 4,000.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it word called. I read them. It said like between you have 3,000 to 4,000.
Yeah.
And that was all that was on that Z.
Oh yeah, and that's all that ever saw the Z. So I I even seen it sometimes. They've heard the stories, but you talk to people that say who are with the rear echelon units, and like S702nd maintenance and so on. You get some of the support people go up there, or they'll be at Camp House supporting us up at across Freedom Bridge, because that's usually where they put them. But you get some, but most support people never went across Freedom Bridge. So, and most of the stories say north of there. Some incidents, major incidents were reported, but even early '80s, like I was telling you about, the one gentleman, Sergeant Smiley. That nobody ever really knew about it. Choppers getting shot at and so on, unless they were shot down. And so, it's like I discussed with a lot of people. A lot of things were covered up as training incidents.
Right. That's true, because we experienced that while I was there. We got a lot of friendly fight and training incidents and stuff. Someone getting accidentally shot.
Yeah. Well, and when you're up in the DMZ, unless you can prove it, North Koreans did it, but a lot of times they'll just write off as a training incident. Again, due to the floating minefields, I've seen the damage that comes out of those, unfortunately. And I know, others have. And, when you find a mine that's not supposed to be in the area you're walking, that's the critical part. Usually, but I don't know, it just, it was more dangerous than people realize. I get a laugh sometimes. I look at YouTube and I see these people, I went to Pambujan. I said, yeah, you went to Pambujan.
Yeah, all right.
You
Yeah.
saw how rough it was.
Hey, Thomas, and then, a lot of people don't realize that, once you out on patrol as a GP, and, you get shot at or get injured out there, they can't fly a chopper in there. You know what I mean? Because they couldn't fly into that. They couldn't fly into there. So you got to call somebody. Got to meet you up the road, and the road dangerous at night because it could be mine. So if you got really hurt in the DMZ, it's gonna be a while before you can get back.
Oh yeah, because they would have. Was it MC? As you and I talked, some of those camps changed names more than once over the years.
Yes.
But I think Liberty Bell was the clear. I want to say Liberty Bell was the nearest helipad up there.
Right. I think it was.
They had to get you all the way back there. Now I know the medevacs worked out of the Camp House while I was over there. So if somebody had to be medevaced out, they had to call the medevacs at Camp House, and they had to fly in. I think it was Liberty Bell.
Right.
I forget where anymore, but they would have to. But yeah, they would have to carry you out by stretcher or just carry you out the road.
That's
and
right.
You had a Jeep or a Hummer meet you, depending what time you was there. My first time was Jeeps. When I went back in Hummers.
Okay.
But yeah, it just when I tell you what, you want to, it was scary out there. Two of the scariest moments I've had are times.
Okay.
One is in the monsoon season.
Okay.
Nothing more scary than sitting out a night ambush, dark, pouring down rain, can't see a thing, can't hear a thing, and you're just like, well, why did I join the army?
And like you said, it's real scary because you can't hear them slipping up on you because you're hitting the raindrops and stuff. But,
it's for, and you're trying to check up your guys, because you don't want somebody to get up and get shot or worse, blown up, by a claymore. Depending who's controlling the claymores, which usually was the squad leaders.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
You don't want somebody, don't want to accidentally set up a claymore and find out you just shredded the crap out of one of your own guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's back to we were locked and loaded. Use of the weapons. The guys, depending on units and so on, but you had the ammo. You might not always. Soldiers in the squad might not always have it loaded up. Snipers did. Squad leaders and a round chamber. It's
right.
Unsafe. But you know what? We put out live claymores.
Oh yeah.
You got live claymores out there, and man, that's why I said it's always been hard to explain to people. It's like it was a real mission. And I said you never know what's going to happen. You just don't know. Being Vietnam, like I said, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and the actual Korean War, any other combat situation, you expect contact.
Right.
But and that was, to me, I think you're a little more calm because you're expecting it to happen.
Right, that's true.
Korea, you don't expect it, but you got to be ready for it because it could, and it does. But I think it's like sitting there waiting is harder to do than just that's it's in the ambush position because your mind's sitting there doing tricks on you because you can't hear or see it.
Right.
But during the daytime, my senses are going, all six senses are going at 180 because I can see, smell, hear, feel,
right.
everything. And mine were, and because you knew what you were doing, so you had to trust all your senses.
Right.
And that's part of being a good soldier. You learn to trust your senses.
Right. Cause
So,
Tom, I can remember sitting out in the cold, man. I'm from down south, and that was some cold weather. And then you gotta listen. You gotta listen to the speakers all night too.
Oh God, the propaganda speakers. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. What was it, about a year back?
Uh huh.
They were talking about the South Koreans putting the propaganda speakers up, and I'm thinking, North Korea says there's something about theirs. I'm thinking theirs. They had them for years. This is not nothing to do. And other people I talk to said the same thing. Propaganda speakers. That's not nothing new.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes they be telling the Katusis. A lot of people don't know what a Katusi is. A Katusi was a soldier from the Korean Army, and they'd be up there. They'd be mixed in, with the American troops.
Yes.
And some.
Katusis, for the listeners, Katusis stands for Koreans augmented to the United States Army. This goes back to 1950.
Right.
It started at the beginning of the Korean War when they were short on Americans. They would recruit Korean soldiers to fill those gaps in. And it's a tradition that's carried 67 years now, close to it.
Right. Because told me one time I asked one of my Korean friend up there, what they were saying. He said, well, all the Katusi soldiers just jump up in the false over with the American, just shoot the American. You know what I mean? And a lot of time, but we just laugh about it too. And
oh yeah, well some of the things, I remember seeing signs. Well, I remember OPSEC was always a big one because you never knew. They never knew that. Well, they already knew there were Korean spies mixed among us.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Even the civilian communities at the clubs the GIs go to, and that's why OPSEC was so important. And that was pushed hard. And of course, another one's like the propaganda leaflets.
Right. Oh yeah, we used to get a lot of that.
Yeah, and when you got them, in our day, and even mine through the late 80s, and I say that for a reason. I see them change in the 90s, but in the 80s, man, you found that thing, you turned it in, you end up turning it to Ghost S2, and it goes on. But you turned it in where you found it, time and date.
Yeah. I know we used to get a lot of it when we used to, up on the barrier fence. We usually go a lot.
Find them even 5-10 miles in.
Right.
Like down like over in Gary Owen, over at Camp Casey, and they've always said a lot of times the North Koreans will fly them in by balloons or whatever. And so, but also belief is that there's North Korean spies mixed in. They were tossed the leaflets. But you would find them on post. That was kind of the more bothersome part, I think, when you find them on post.
Right.
And but it was a big no-no to be caught with those things.
Right.
If you weren't turning that into, let's say, your orderly room, because a lot of us, like me, I spent part of my time away from squadron, battalion. So you turn into the orderly room, then the orderly room will forward them on to the S2. S2 is intelligence for the listeners.
Right.
Don't know.
And Thomas, sometimes I'm thinking some of the house boys were spies too. And
what's that?
The house boys, a lot of people don't know what the house boy were, but he kept your shoes shine, your clothes clean.
Yeah, they were lifesavers, and I tell you what, boy, when I went to Korea in '83 and got got back in I got back in '87. I was like, my God, I don't have to worry about laundry. The houseboy press my uniforms, fixing out my boots 100 times better than I could.
Yeah.
It was worth the $20 a month.
It was well worth it too, Thomas. You know what I mean? You had everything laid out for you and everything, and and they did a good job of cleaning too, buddy.
Oh yeah, they did. You didn't have they make your bunk up. They take care of the rooms and so on. So, and we were so crammed usually in the cab. Two-man room, you had 4. You had the one-man room, there was 2.
Right.
And crammed. My first time over there, and see, it was like Korea was. It took a while to evolve to upgrading the facilities because I stayed in the Quonset huts my first time even. I know you did.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's all we had. Right, that's all we had.
You've had variations of temporary buildings out there. Like you had the Quonset huts being the rounded roofs, but they also had, I think, what do you recall? It shows how well I know construction, but a regular roof, but they're a metal building. But,
what? Okay.
You guys, you had to keep your jerry cans filled, your 5-gallon jerry cans all the time, right?
At all time, that's right. We had to.
Yeah, see, by the time I got over there, we actually had, I guess you could see, it was radiated heat, but you had, in the barracks, but it was radiated heat, but you had a boiler, but we had a big tank outside the building.
Oh, no, we didn't have none of that. We had that 5-gallon can.
Yeah.
We had to make sure, somebody keep it up all night.
Oh yeah, this was barracks, and even then in the 70s, this was around 1970. Most people in the States by then already had central area heat, bathrooms, hell, it's like Korea was, people don't realize, anymore. You see, I've always been a history fanatic, or I keep up with it. And, that's the problem. I always say we don't learn from our past,
right.
in life. And I won't get started on that. That's another subject in time.
Right.
But, Korea was so primitive even up till after the Olympics. I mean, a lot of them in the housing areas had community toilets, outhouses.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that was so common even up into the late 80s. It was at I ran one hooch. We had a community toilet, and this is early 90s when I first went back.
Right.
And I rented a hooch, but he had a community toilet, but he had actually a flushable toilet in there. Yeah. So.
Right. Well, we had my outhouses, especially out on the GPs and everything.
Oh yeah, but I tell you what, in the wintertime, man. When you live off post or stay in the hooch, it's like, oh boy, here I go using that cold toilet seat, and it stinks, especially the outhouse. It's like, and then you had andal is not a Korean word, by the way, for the charcoal.
Okay.
Youngtan.
What do they call it?
Youngtan was the Korean name for the charcoal they use, what we call andal. Andal is an American name, and I forget where it's derived. But Youngtan is what the Koreans call the old charcoal heaters that were used. And, that was something else that was always hard to explain because people said, oh, you get carbon monoxide, I said there's 2 different, people didn't understand there was 2 different types of heat.
Yeah.
More heat. You had air inducted and you had radiated.
Right, that's true.
The one that was dangerous was the air inducted because it was actually blowing heat off the stove was blowing through the hollow floors. And if you had a crack in the floor, that's where the smoke would come up through the floor.
Wow.
And that's what was dangerous, staying in the hooches when they always, the Army always, and it don't help when you got commanders that never spent day one in the hooch like that and understand it. Or you're senior NCOs, it's like, the radiator heat, you had a stove in what's basically the kitchen. And that's where you ran the charcoal, but it was all water, radiated base, and so your floors were heated with hot water. And Korea still did that quite a bit with housing. An apartment I had in 2000, Levi.
Okay.
They had what they called city gas, is propane that was pumped in. We had propane gas pumped in, and but our floors were still radiated heat. It was a water heater that heated it, and so
Yeah, cause like I said, it can get cold in Korea.
Oh, yeah. Hey, it's funny. I was telling somebody the other day, we get talking cold weather. I said, you know what? I think I forgot all the cold times I had in Korea because I was usually freaking miserable. Yeah. I said, I've seen a lot of bad winters over there. And their winters got milder than 90s, too, though, like they did here.
Right.
Some of our winters weren't so bad, but I do remember, what was it, 98, I think it was, I went to smoke a turkey, and it got so cold I had to pull it out and cook it.
What?
Cook in the oven in the house.
Yeah.
And,
it get cold.
It gets cold over there,
and you get frostbite in a minute.
And you get, it's like something else. What was it? Oh yeah. A friend of mine, I took my wife to her Buddha meeting.
Mm-hmm.
As I told you earlier, and what they call SGI, Sogaki International. It's a spin-off of Buddhism, but they're still Buddhists. Whatever. I took my wife to her meeting, and I was talking to a friend of mine, his young son. We got talking. I said, Korea, what made it cold was that Manchurian wind, as they call it.
Right.
Blowing in from the north, and that's what made it miserable in the DMZ. It just, no way to heat. You being near a bunker or guard post, guard tower, and the only thing kept you warm is what you were wearing, as you know.
Yeah, with the big parkas and the big mitten glove and the Mickey Mouse boots and
yeah. And I know when I was armor with her the first time, anytime, diesel engines, when the winter hits, I've done this a lot of places over the years, even in the States, like at Fort Riley, it gets cold, then you got to have a rotation of people going out doing cold starts in the middle of the night.
Right.
Make sure to run the vehicles up, and God forbid, the batteries are dead on one, then you're slaying, your whole night gets longer, and you're freezing your tush off,
That's true.
But yeah, because I remember, usually two of us did cold starts. That we had two in case one vehicle would start, the other way, it took two people to slay off a vehicle.
Right.
As we call the slay cables, jumper cables in civilian terms. The slay cable's a little different. It's a plug-in cable instead of clamps. But yeah, I remember many times doing cold starts over the years, whether it was in Korea or not, because those diesel engines, you had a cold start. It's the only problem with diesel.
Right.
It's not flammable, but when it gets cold, it gels up.
Right, it get cold. Well, Thomas, Hey Thomas, let's take a break and come back because I want to talk about this book I think Bob that got out saying we were soldiers too.
Yeah, we were soldiers too. Yeah, that's fine. So, that's fine.
Okay.
I like to talk about the book. We've been talking about Korea in general for a while, but I like to talk about Bob's book series.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a commercial break and we're going to come right back.
Okay.
If you like to talk sports, then join us on Spooning Around with host Levi Miller and his co-host Roland Malcolm on WLMRradio.com Monday through Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to ask our host questions or state your views, then text us on our Express Lane text line 470-881-8554. Our show is live. So how about that, sports fans? Welcome back to the Veteran Show with your hosts, Levi Miller and Thomas Lucken. Thomas, before we left, we were talking about the book that Bob got out, saying we were soldiers too. Could you tell us a little about the book?
Yeah, Bob Kern, I met him when he started on his third book on the We Were Soldiers 2 series. And his third book he did about the Korean DMZ. probably. And it's a third in the series of 12. He's working on books 4 and 5 now, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But the first 3 books are out, and book 1 is about Bob's experiences in Germany. Bob did not serve in Korea, but he did serve quite a bit of time in Germany during the Cold War in the 80s. And when Bob did his first book, he just wrote about his experiences. Well, a lot of people ask questions, and however it was, you'd have to get Bob to describe exactly what. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to look up something while we're talking. I apologize.
Okay, no problem.
But when Bob had a lot of people talk to him, so he did book 2. And book 2, what he done, he's taking the stories of the soldiers that served over there in Germany during the Cold War, and and wrote a book on that. So
right.
he had, he had basically how many ever chapters based on how many soldiers he interviewed. And I forget what it was, like 17, I think, in that book. A friend of mine's a professor. That's how Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, has the book right now. So I've been talking to the school about it. But then book 3 was about the Korean DMZ, and which was based on Bob doing the same theory and taking the stories of those veterans that serve up there.
Uh-huh.
And so what Bob's wanting to do is tell the veterans stories of what they did, and how they served, and what their service was like. And he's trying to, his whole thing is, he wants to get the story out there about those who served in the Cold War and let them not be forgotten. You got guys, for a good example, along the back during the Cold War days before 90, the old East German and Czech borders. Granted, it wasn't quite as active as we had in the DMZ, but it was still a dangerous place. They didn't have to pull armed guards or armed patrols, but they still had to do guard towers and and I guess you could say spy on the East Germans or the Czechs, and I've talked to friends over the years that served up there, especially the ones that served with the 2nd ACR down the Czech border, then 11th ACR, which coincidentally back in, I think it was early 70s after Vietnam, the 11th replaced the 14th ACR. Because the 14th ACR was over there on the West German border. Then when Vietnam was over, the 11th, they were redesignated to the 11th ACR. And so, it's a great series. It's been an honor to help Bob. I've been helping him promote the books. And for everybody's knowledge, there's 3 books in the series right now, and it's all 3 books are start off with We Were Soldiers Too. And so, we do have a Facebook page. It's on Instagram. You can find it by We Were Soldiers Too. And Bob's got a website, and the website is We Were Soldiers Too.
Right.
.com.
Well,
it's all one big word.
Well,
the books are available on Amazon.com and on BarnesandNobles.com.
That was I just been to ask you, Thomas. Can we get it off? Can we get it through Amazon?
Yes, Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
And so those are the 2 main places. You could go through the website to get it, but yeah, those are the 2 main places to buy it. And I highly recommend the books, whether you've been there or not. I've never, like Germany, for example. I never served in Germany. I've done Reforgers, but it was really intriguing to read about what it was like for the guy, the people in Germany, and just read the stories. Because espionage was a high thing over there at that time, more so than Korea. Right. And, it's something that they have forgotten since it's been, 25 years basically since the Cold War ended.
Right.
So,
and you know what, Tom? I wanted to go to Korea too, but we got sent the other way. Me, Germany. I wanted to go to Germany because they were telling us some of the stories like paradise over there. And they sent us a different way though. They sent us to Korea.
I tried to go to Germany after the second reforge I went on in January '86.
Right.
And I tried to go, and I kept on putting in back down was the old 4187s.
Okay.
And I kept submitting for Germany. I already did the tour of Korea, so I wanted to go to Germany.
Right.
And I kept trying to submit 4187s. Well, I never get anything back from what we call branch.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day I just put one in for Korea because after 3 years I was ready to get out of Fort Riley, Kansas. I put in 4187, and wham bam, 2 months later I was on levee and off to Korea.
Right. Well, Thomas. Thomas, the Facebook page. Who was your partner? I know you all had this Facebook page, man, and I go to that Facebook. I go on it every day. We
got the page. We got the group also. The page is kind of more open.
Mm-hmm.
I found what I was looking for, by the way. But the page is more open, where everybody can see it natural. Where groups, you can kind of let people in and out. The page, there's actually, Bob's got another one, it's Bob Kern, an author.
Okay.
But We Were Soldiers when I started out, me and Bob, I probably maintain it more than he does.
Okay.
When I started and pretty much maintain it. And I just try, my whole thing, and it's like I do on Instagram. A lot of I do is just trying to get Cold War stuff posted on there and information, and just to try to educate people. Not always exactly, it's related to the books because we're talking Cold War.
Right, that's true.
But, like the vehicles, maybe try to get a little information, and so that's one of the things I do is like posting up there. Recently I did, for example, a T-54 and so on.
Uh-huh.
And then what I do the vehicles, I go out, I share it on different places. And of course I put the website on there. And part of doing that too, besides, trying to educate people, is also to promote the website.
Right.
Or promote the book series, I'm sorry. With the website. That's what I was trying to say. Didn't come out right.
And I love it. I love it too, Thomas.
Oh, well, I do too. By the way, I finally found it while we're talking.
Right.
Here, I asked Bob to send me a tentative list of the book series. And right now, he's got it up to 15 books he's looking to do when all's said and done. Just on Cold War.
Okay.
But books, I know he's working on book 4 for sure, and he's working a bit on book 5. But book 4 is called The Cold War at Sea. And it's strictly about dealing with the Navy, especially the submarines, the submariners, because a lot of our submarines back then were nuclear submarines loaded with nuclear warheads.
Right. Oh, wow. Well, Thomas, do you think we can get Bob to come on one day? Come on air with us?
I'd love to get Bob on. Bob would do it, because he'll do I like to get Bob on here. He'd do it.
Okay, I'd like to welcome, all soldiers that have been career, to come on air, come in, call in and ask questions. And, they can call in on 470-776-0863. And Thomas and myself, we would love to have you on our show and tell us about your experience, what you did in Korea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of stories out there that, that would surprise even us. I mean, there's a lot that's been seen that you and I haven't even seen, Levi.
Right. Well, I admire you, Thomas, because you have spent a lot of time over there than I have. You've been all over the place. And that's why I come to you, right?
I enjoyed it. I hate to say it, but I enjoyed the more primitive conditions of Korea. It lured me in.
Well,
Maybe it's the Indian side of me. Who knows? But I just enjoyed Korea. I went back the second time.
Right.
And I didn't like stateside duty.
That's me.
Especially in the '80s, stateside duty. It was just too much a dog and pony show.
Right.
Where at least Korea, you had a real mission.
Right. And Tommy, that's what I like about Korea too, man. Cause I met some of the best of friends over there. It's not like civilian life, you meet some of the best of friends. Everybody got each other back, and everybody got along.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I've seen issues at times, but for the most part we got along. as I've said in the past, many of us have said, we were all one color.
Yeah, that's right. Boy, we have some good times together.
Yeah, we won't talk about some of those good times.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas.
Some wild times.
That's right. Another thing was, Thomas.
Korea got, and anymore it's changed for what it was. So,
right.
But it was kind of a Wild West back then, if you think about it.
Right. Hey, yeah, Thomas. Before we go, that's another thing I want to ask you. Do they still come into Kimpo? Cause I know when we came into Kimpo. That's where they made us. That's where they made us drop them. We get them shots there, and then I think we went to Ashcon from there before they signed us to our units. But is Kimpo still there? The airport?
The Kimpo, actually, they turned it over, and I'm not sure when Kimpo was turned over to the Koreans. So it turned into International Airport recently in the last few years. It went from being international, pretty much a local airport, and they opened up a new airport over in Incheon.
Okay.
And so, but I know when I've flown in on MAC flights, we fly into Osan.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And see, when I came in, by my time when we got there, we would go from Osan, and for our Army guys, we go from Osan up to Yongsan.
Okay.
Camp Coiner.
All right.
And Camp Coiner, you'd be dispatched there. I mean, being a combat arms, you pretty much were going up to second ID. That was no.
Oh, okay.
And you didn't have the fun of staying in Yongsan and enjoying the Itaewon and all that when it was wild in those days. But but we go to Camp Coiner. You spend 2-3 days there processing, then you get sent to Camp Casey.
Mm-hmm.
You went to what we call the turtle farm.
Right.
And you went through the turtle farm, spent 2-3 days there processing. Then, like my case, my second tour was on it. I swear to God, it took me 2 weeks before I finally got to my unit, my troop.
Okay.
Company has ratio involvement, the captain called troops. And, by the time I got to my troop, it was 2 weeks in, because I got to squadron, I think it was on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, enjoy the weekend. Of course, I had no pass, so I couldn't leave post. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Okay. Well, Thomas, I see we're about running out of time. Time passed by so quick. But, I want everybody to come in like on we on air from Monday through Saturday at 8 o'clock on the Veteran Show. And, I hope all the Korean soldier or, any soldier, come on. You can come on. We at WLMRradio.com. And if you want to go to get the free app for your iPhones or your smartphone, you can go to tunein.com and in the search box, put WLMR-DB. That's David Boy. And it'll come right on your app.
If they do it off the computer, I found this out yesterday. Yeah, it comes, how do you want to say it? It plays right over the website.
Yeah, right on the website, right on time. And the show come on from 8 to 9 o'clock every night.
Yeah, I see where you do the sports show too.
Oh yeah, I got to get you on the sports show. All right, well we gonna close it out, Thomas, and I wish everybody come on the Veteran Show from 8 to 9 o'clock every night. So until then, we'll see you tomorrow.